insult you. I hope you're not one of those grown-ass men that get excited about high school recruiting and going to college. What's your college team?
First of all, I got to tell you, I couldn't tell you one single recruit coming out of high school. I don't care because none of it matters. Call me when these kids are 2 years into their careers. And then as someone in my position, in my field, I'll care. Then I'll care. Then I'll reach out to a GM and go, what do you think?
What's your school?
Oh, I went to a school that was D3, that didn't have football. It was all about a hockey school.
Okay, so who do you follow then? What's your team in college?
None of them.
None. Really?
When I was I got to tell you, because in New York, nobody cares about.
You're
college.
not in New York, bro. You're like, you're in an area of the country that
now it's Big Ten country.
Football's God for everybody.
Big Ten country shoes. But you got to realize in New York, where I grew up the first 25 years of my life, it was like you had Syracuse a couple hours away and Rutgers. And let me tell you something. That's no way to live. Okay.
Yeah, no, I know.
So, I'm a quarter Irish, so I guess like Notre Dame as a kid, like I followed Notre Dame, but I like watching college football. I just like watching the big games. I like sitting down watching the big games, but I don't have a team that I'm like actually invested in.
I just find it funny how people their emotions are swayed and they actually care whether some kid's coming or not and this and that and I love these 4 and 5 star things, and they measure these kids when they don't know jack crap about most of these guys and how they're going to handle the next level and all of that. I've just seen so many disappointments that I find it a waste of time.
It is.
To actually even give a shit about it, to be quite honest.
Let's
be honest.
Look at how many guys in the pros right now are guys that have like 1 offer, 2 offers. Like they were not. I mean, Burrow is a perfect example of a guy who was nobody. He transferred from Ohio State. He couldn't hack it. Goes to LSU. Has the most incredible season we've ever seen from a quarterback. I mean, Mahomes was a guy at Texas Tech with a losing record that was not heavily recruited. There's a lot of
Russell Wilson.
Russell Wilson. I mean, so many examples of guys. Tony Romo, who was a damn good quarterback at Eastern Illinois, right? Like, it doesn't. And then there's Josh Rosen, who was the biggest prospect in the world and was fine in college, was good in college, and then went to the pros and was absolutely terrible. So, to me, I don't cover college football for a living. I cover the NFL. I watch college football to enjoy it and also to look at like the top 100 draft prospects. Other than that, no, I don't care, man. Call me when you're ready to get to the pros and you're going to be a draft pick, and then we'll talk.
Right. No, I'm with you there. I wanted to talk to you about this because, down here, people are picking on Josh Boyer. And I'm kind of defending. I defend Josh Boyer because, one, they've got 5 players that they can count on defense. I mean, and X is not one of them, and neither is Bradley Chubb right now. The Bradley Chubb deal has been so far like a neck. I'm not giving up on the guy. I'm not giving up on the guy, but so far it's not even paying off. And right now it's Sealer, it's Wilkins, it's Phillips, it's Holland, and it's Kohu. Okay, a Division II undrafted guy. Okay, those are the 5 guys that are reliable on defense right now. Last time I checked, there's 11. So, listen, I lived Marino, so I can name countless games where Marino threw his ass off, 300-400 yards, put up 35, 40, 42, 45 points. And then the defense gave up 37, 46, 48. And you're sitting there at the end of the game going, dude, Marino lit him up, but damn it, the defense lost the game. That has not happened one time this season for the Miami Dolphins. Not one time has the offense lit it up that the defense ended up giving up more points, and that's it. No, every time they've actually done enough to keep you in games. They don't shut anybody down. The Ravens, they gave up those points in the first half, and they did shut them down in the second half. Right. Detroit, they gave up points in the first half, and they did shut them down in the second half. But in the totality, they still gave up points. Sure. But they do enough. Even in the Buffalo game, if you watched it, they got a late turnover, and Miami did nothing with it. And Miami could have run the ball on 3rd and short countless times, and McDaniel, for some brain fart reason, kept passing the ball. He took a 2-point conversion in the first quarter when, brother, it's the beginning of the game. How arrogant can you be? Just take the point on the road. But here's my long-ass question to you. And this is what I'm trying to tell the Dolphin fans, and I think you're going to be able to relate with me here. We got to stop this shit, bro. There aren't a lot of great defenses anymore in the NFL. Maybe San Francisco, maybe you'll find another one or something. Most everybody else, it's win and survive, dude. It's just do enough to get by. And I'm looking at the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Houston Texans lit them up for 500 yards. But what happened? You won, right? It was ugly as hell. It wasn't pretty. I'm sure it was a Maalox moment for you, but you won, dude. And I think we're like at that NFL now that nobody really has a luxury of a great defense that's going to shut people out. Just do enough to win. And even the Kansas City Chiefs have to just do enough to win, even on defense.
So, yeah, I mean, if you want to go that route, and yeah, it was enough Maalox to last a lifetime. But they actually, so in the Houston game, the Denver game, they gave up 28 points to Denver, who can't score at all. Now, last week actually was interesting. The Chiefs outgained them by 300 yards and gave up 24 points because they kept turning the football over.
Right.
They just kept handing them the ball at the 20-yard line. They're here, beat us. But then missed the field. Well, whatever. We're not here to talk about the Chiefs. Look, so the Dolphins for me, I get they gave up 32 points, but you know what? When you play the Bills, the Bengals, the Chiefs, these teams that can light it up, the league is made in a way now where those teams are going to score. Like, for an example, the Chiefs, they average 30 points. They average that. Like, if you hold the Chiefs to 30 points, it's an average day for the Chiefs. If you're going to beat those teams, you have to outscore them. And you've got to be good situationally on defense. Like, if you want to get on Boyer and the Dolphins, my criticism of the Dolphins in that game would have been on third down when the Bills went 8 of 14. Okay. But I'm not going to sit here and kill them for giving up yardage and giving up 32 points against a team that, like, they're going to score. That team is going to score points. I think if you're the Dolphins, like, you've got to be better on third down. And then in the red zone, you got to go better than giving up 4 touchdowns and 5 trips. That, to me, if I'm Boyer, that's what I'm annoyed about, is the red zone and third down. I'm not annoyed. Look, they're going to move the football. They're going to score some points, but you've got to tighten them. That's why they beat them in the first game. They were good in limiting opportunities. Bass misses a kick. The Bills moved the ball even more in the first game. They had more yardage in the first game, but they were limited on offense. Now, to me, I wrote about this in Stacking the Box on Monday. What cost the Dolphins the game was their head coach in that game. Yeah. When you are sitting there, and I detailed, I believe it was 3 plays I thought cost them the game. When you're in these third and shorts, and
31, 32, 33.
Over and over and over, and you're cramming the ball down Buffalo's throat. The Bills could not stop them from running the football. Could not stop them. Had no answer the whole game. Why you would throw the ball in those situations, I have no idea. The one that to me was the most egregious was when they got the ball and they're up 5, they forced a turnover in the early part of the fourth quarter. And I think it was 3rd and 1, maybe it's 3rd and 2. And they throw a pass behind the line of scrimmage to Alec Ingold. Look, run the damn ball. And if you don't pick up the first down, run it again. Because kicking a field goal there keeps it a 1-score game, and it allows Buffalo to stay in the game. You go down the field and score there, you probably win the game. You get up 12 points, the game's probably over. Yeah. I thought the Dolphins, and then there was another time early in the game, there was a second drive of the game. They had a 3rd and 1 at Buffalo's 11, and Tua takes a sack in a spot where, look, man, you cannot take a sack. Like, you got to throw I don't care if you throw the ball.
Get rid of that ball. He hung on to it.
He was holding it. You've got to get rid of the ball. But he never should have thrown it in the first place. You just run all the way down the field with Mostert.
Right.
Like that. To me, you can talk about the defense, Tua, this, that, and the other. Look, they lost that game because on 3rd and short, they did exactly what Buffalo was praying they would do.
Well, it also didn't help that Tyreek and Sherfield drop a touch on the same drive. They dropped 2 touchdowns in the end zone.
They did.
You know what I mean? And then here's where Mike McDaniel also screwed up. He puts in Braylon Sanders, an undrafted rookie who only played earlier in the year and effed up. He effed up when he played. He sends him downfield. And if you notice, that's the same play they beat Buffalo with earlier in the season where he was splitting the safeties. The kid stops. Apparently he has, that whole thing where objects appear closer than they really are in the mirror and all that. And the ball sails over him that if young child, run, he throws you another touchdown. That's another touchdown that Tua threw in that moment there because he's supposed to split the safeties and keep riding. And the kid stopped to play defense when the ball sailed over him by 15 yards. And it's like, yo, dude, you didn't read it right. And so that's a stupid move by the coach because Cedric Wilson's experienced. Gesicki's never used. I mean, my God, how about that big target down the middle of the field? Why not? Try that. You know what I mean? These are things, and then, like I said, going for the 2-point conversion in that first quarter, that's arrogance right there. It's like, there's no chart, bro. There's no chart there. Take the point. You're on the road, bro. Shut up and take the point. You're moving the ball on them. You should feel good. Take the point.
It felt like a little bit of a panic move early. Look, I would say this. If I'm the Dolphins, I feel two ways.
I'm going arrogance, bro. When you go third and short pass, and then you do that early with the 2-point, I'm going arrogance that you think your stuff is not going to get stopped.
What he said after the game was insane to me. And look, I'm a big McDaniel fan. I think he's done a great job here. But what he said after the game about, well, we stopped running the ball because we wanted to get ahead of Buffalo's adjustments. Bro, make him adjust to you. If you're cramming the ball for 7.5 yards a clip, like they haven't adjusted to crap, make them do it. I was shocked that he said that. That's like if Mahomes threw 20 straight completions like he did against Houston, and then the Chiefs just started running the ball at will. And we got to get ahead of it. No, you don't. You just keep throwing the football. But I thought in that game, look, there's two ways to take that game, and I think both are valid. One is, look, a lot of people thought the Dolphins were going to get killed in that game. They didn't. The Dolphins probably should have won that game. Really should have. So if I'm a Dolphins fan, I'm looking at it and saying it sucks that they lost, but they showed they could go up there and play them in a weather that nobody thought they could beat them in, and they could absolutely beat them in that weather. But the other side of it is they made the little mistakes that are big mistakes in big games. You can't have 3 or 4 really bad play calls on third down. You just can't. Nope. Like that sends you home in the playoffs. You can't get a turnover the way.
By the way, that guarantees you that. Let's say you succeed on 1 or 2 of them, not all 3.
Right.
But now you extend these drives. You possibly put more points on the board, less possessions for the Bills.
Right.
Less time you put your defense out there, which is not a good defense. So there were other factors, other dominoes that fall with making those bad decisions.
Yeah.
It just really cost you, man.
You can't, I think that's the lesson as the Dolphins have 3 games left here, and I would think in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Is you in those games, in those spots, when you're playing those elite teams, you've got to be buttoned up. You can't have those types of errors. And when you have a chance to put them down for good, as I think the Dolphins did when they recovered that fumble, you got to do it. Like that's when you've got, look, we obviously bring up Kansas City on this sometimes. I would give an example of when the Chiefs played Buffalo last season. The Bills had 13 seconds and they win that game. And the Bills didn't kill them. They had the Chiefs in that playoff game dead to rights. 13 seconds to go. And they let them off the mat. And once they got off the mat, that was it. It was over. They weren't going to get them back down. And like that, when you have an opportunity to put a team like Buffalo on to the ground, you've got to do it. And I thought the Dolphins were way too concerned. Especially, look, I disagree completely with that Ingold call for a million reasons. If you're going to throw the ball, then throw the ball. Throw the ball to Hill. Throw the ball to Waddle. Get him in space. I mean, don't throw to Alec Ingold and hope he can make a guy miss. Like that's nuts. You can't call that play in that spot.
No.
I would think that McDaniel will learn from that. He's a rookie coach, and he has to, because if they play Buffalo again, which they could in the first round of the playoffs, or Kansas City or Cincinnati, you've got to be prepared to go in with an idea of, hey, look, we can't waste 1 third down. We can't waste one critical play because in a game like that against those teams, that's death. They will put you away if you make a mistake.
No. But in general, it's really just win and survive in today's league, right? It's not really there aren't a lot of teams that can say, okay, defense, carry us.
No,
they're just
very
aren't, right? I mean, San Fran,
Dallas occasionally.
Yes, they do
but
have
I mean,
really
very few teams. Very few teams.
It's just
and when you get into the playoffs now, look at the quarterbacks. Like, forget the NFC. The NFC is a dumpster fire, relatively speaking. In the AFC, there's a really good chance that all the quarterbacks outside of Tennessee are going to be guys who are really good players, the great players, like the Hall of Fame level players. You're not shutting down Josh Allen in a playoff game. Just not. They're too good. They're too talented. You're not shutting down Joe Burrow or Patrick Mahomes. Like, these guys, they're going to throw the ball. Like, you go into the game understanding we got to try to force a turnover too. We got to try
and Josh is going to run too, not just throw. He's also going to kill, because really that's what killed the Dolphins.
Yeah,
was running like Duke Riley's in the middle, and I tweet out right after that play when he gets all those yards. I like Zach Thomas, John Offerdahl, Nick Bonacani, Duke Riley. You think there's a drop off?
Yeah, he's not. He's not quite Nick Bonacani.
It's like, come on, dude. I can't kill Boyer when you can't make chicken salad out of chicken. Come on, dude.
At some point, the realization has to be, for most of these teams, you have to play well situationally on defense. Get a turnover, force a field goal down the red zone.
They did. They got the turnover late.
They got the turnover.
You had to then convert into points, and you didn't because you didn't make the right calls.
The big thing is that, if I'm the Dolphins, if I'm Boyer, I'm saying, look, defensively, I don't care how many yards we give up. I just don't. Now, I care when I'm playing a bad team. I don't care when I'm playing one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. We're going to give up yards. We're going to give up some points. But what I'm hoping for is some stops in the red zone, some stops on third down. Those downs are going to win you and lose you playoff games. They just are. I mean, in the NFL, there's maybe a half dozen plays that truly define the game. There's a half dozen plays that one way or the other, that's what's going to change the game. That's it. And if you make more of them than you don't, you probably win. And for the Dolphins, I sat there and watched the whole game, obviously. I thought the Dolphins outplayed Buffalo for a big part of that game.
Yeah.
But Buffalo was 8 of 14 on third down. They were great in the red zone. They defensively, they turned what could have been a killer of a 7 into a 3 after the fumble. I mean, those are the types of things that, and then the Dolphins, look, they got the ball back tied. They didn't put it in the end zone. That's when, that to me is where, when you're in the playoffs and you're in Buffalo or Arrowhead or Cincinnati, you got to go down. You got to score a touchdown, because that other team is probably going to go down and move the ball and score. So that's the NFL today. It's not 1979 anymore, where you're going to hold the team to 7 points. You're just not. I mean, unless you have an all-time day. I mean, a bad day for a lot of these offenses is 24 points. It is.
Yeah. No, I'm with you there. All right. So one thing I wanted to bring up with Tua, because it's like the weirdest thing in the world. Okay. And I've been covering this now for I'm completing my 33rd year doing this business. And this is something that it's never happened ever in our business. Okay. Going into this game, one of the things that people have been talking about is, can Tua play in the cold? Now, I want you to think about this, and think about this good. When did you ever say that about any quarterback in the history of your existence? Can somebody play in the cold or in the rain? It's about the silliest thing in the world, because that's part of football. Everybody plays in the rain. Everybody plays in the snow. Everybody plays in the heat and the humidity, where the ball could also get slippery because it's so freaking humid, at times. This guy's measured completely different than any other quarterback, because in the end, it was a silly discussion. Why? Because he had a bad game in bad weather? That doesn't mean he can't play in bad weather. Everybody, dude, I'm old. Dave Craig had small hands. Dante Culpepper had small hands. Kenny Pickett has small hands. Nobody's ever talking about, can they play in cold weather or this, that, because that's part of the game. If not, you would have never gotten to this point if you couldn't play in that kind of weather. Because at one point or another, you're going to play in a slop. You're going to play in snow. You're going to play in all kinds of humidity. I just find it silly because we've never put that on any other quarterback in the history of the game. We could talk about, can they figure out defenses? Can they throw the ball? Can they be accurate? All these other things that are normal, Nobody's ever talked about, can this player play in elements? It's the weirdest thing.
So let me ask you, how warm is it outside of your house right now?
No, actually, lately it hasn't been, man. We've been like, we don't have a lot of humidity.
What's the temperature outside your house right now?
Oh, dude, it's probably in the 70s. Let me see if it says it here.
It's 70s.
Oh, it's probably like, no, we've had some really nice weather. Like, you would hate us right now.
Yeah, I would, because you know what it is outside my house right now? It's 9.
Like 12? Yeah.
9. Okay. So my point is this. Look, I think with Tua, that's more of he plays in Miami thing. Like, if he played in Cleveland, no one would ask that question, right? Because it's cold and it's freezing all the time. I think that's more a function of, like, it's the Dolphins and it's warm weather, and like warm weather teams, right or wrong, always get branded as soft. Always. Sure. They just do.
Well, we never did that to Jay Fiedler or Ray Lucas or
those guys. They were terrible.
None of them. We never talked about.
They couldn't play in good weather.
You know what I mean? Can they throw in the weather? Can they throw in the cold? Can they throw in the rain? We never did that to even bad quarterbacks that we had here.
Nobody asked if Jay Fiedler could play in bad weather, because nobody could see him ever play in good weather. Look, the reality is, I think there's always a mentality. It's like warm weather teams are soft and cold weather teams are these. Yeah. Oh my God, you might be the only person alive was a Jay Fiedler bobblehead. I can't believe they made. Did he make that? It's just, look, you always get that mentality. Like, the cold weather teams are harder teams to play. Some of that's true sometimes, some of it's not. I think it's more of a mental thing most of the time with weather than it is physical. Like, listen, these guys are in the NFL for a reason. They can play. The only time I think weather truly impacts a game is if it is a driving rainstorm, because then, of course, it's footing and it's gripping the ball. It's everything.
That affects everybody.
I've asked players this a million times. Most guys will tell you snow is not a problem. Snow is, unless it's a complete, one of those crazy, like,
it's the traction on the ice. So that's
most of the time. The thing that affects a quarterback the most is the wind. If you get a day, like, I'll tell you guys something right now. Out in Chicago, about an hour from me, okay, on Saturday when the Bills play the Bears, the wind chill, -40. I mean, you want to talk about having a hard, and guy, I've covered many games at that stadium. Let me tell you, it is right on the lake, and that wind coming off that lake. The coldest I've ever been in my life was covering a Bears-Rams Sunday night game. And I remember walking to the stadium from my car and thinking, oh my God, I've grown up my whole life in cold weather. This is the coldest I've ever been ever. I was like jogging through the metal detector to get the hell in the stadium. And I remember watching the Rams warm up, and every guy had their hand in the hand warmers. It wouldn't take him out till the ball's about a foot away from him. And I turned to a buddy of mine in the booth. I'm like, there is no chance. There is no chance they're winning this game. They want to get in the locker room so bad, it's not even fun. And I think that's the thing. It's more mental. Like, the Rams physically could have beaten the Bears that night, but the Rams mentally were like, oh my God, get us the hell out of here. Where the Bears are they're used to it. They play it all the time. That, to me, is the advantage more than it is, can Tua grip the ball? Can this guy run? Yeah, of course. He's a human being with hands. He can grip the football.
He's got big hands, actually. He doesn't have small hands. He's got like 10.5.
Hands are fine.
So
Burrow is a guy who has smaller hands, and Burrow has no problem throwing the ball through cold. But it is mental with weather. Has been forever. Yeah. That's the thing. It's like, you would remember, of course, when the Vikings played at the old Met, and teams would go up there, and they were just beaten before they even start to play the game. It was so damn cold. Who the hell wanted to be there? That's the advantage. It's that. It's not so much, this guy's going to be better. And by the way, like Josh Allen, everybody's like, he's cold weather quarterback. He grew up in California. Like, he's used to it now. He's used to it. He's that's
4 years in Wyoming too. That's also what that's what they lean on. His 4 years at Wyoming, not his California.
But he grew up in California. Aaron Rodgers grew up high school, college, California. He's used to it because you accept it up there. You're freezing to death. That's just part of it. I think that's the advantage cold weather teams have is they're used to it. Where somebody else goes up there, like the other team, the warm weather team.
The Bills were wilting in the heat in September.
Right. And that was the
storyline from that game.
They were cramping constantly. Yep.
Right.
Because the Dolphins players, they live in it every day. They're there. They're used because for a Dolphins player, you're not thinking about how hot it is. You're used to it. If you're a Bills player, you're going, God Almighty, it's so effing hot. Oh my God! Like I'm gonna have a heart attack playing this weather. And it's the same the other way. I think that's the thing. When you play in weather like that, the team that's used to it doesn't think about it. It's not part of it for them. It's like, well, I'm used to this. Whereas when you now Bills Bears -40, everybody's gonna be thinking about it. It's when you get that cold, everybody's feeling that. Okay. Let me tell you, there's gonna be a whole lot of running the ball and get the hell back in the locker room in that game. There's gonna be, there's not gonna be too many guys like, hey, let's challenge this and sit here for 6 minutes. It's going to be, you know what? It's good. It's incomplete. Let's go to the next play.
All right. So let me ask you something.
Yep.
I know that Jalen Hurts got a little banged up with the shoulder, and I know he threw a couple interceptions this week, but still, overall, when we look at some of the running type quarterbacks, and we look at Lamar, and you and I are kind of on the same page of Lamar that he hasn't really turned the corner as a passer. And then the other guy is Justin Fields, who I think has not turned the corner as a passer yet, but it's still young for him. I'm watching Jalen Hurts. I'm watching a better passer overall. Do you see the same thing?
Yes, I do. Hurts has the ability to just win a game with his arm, which Lamar has done occasionally, but not consistently. Hurts can do that consistently. Now,
exactly.
Lamar fans would point out, and rightfully so, the Eagles have better receivers. The Eagles have A.J. Brown. They have Devonta Smith. They have, now Goddard's fine, but Mark Andrews is a better tight end than Goddard. So Jackson is him. But Lamar doesn't have the consistency throwing the football that Jalen Hurts has shown this year. Jalen Hurts has been awesome. Like, I do not think he's the MVP of the league. I truly believe Mahomes is. That being said, if Hurts wins it, like, it's fair enough. He's been spectacular this season. He's probably the hardest guy to defend in terms of everything he does. You could argue Josh Allen because Allen is so unique in that.
Yes.
The only thing I'll say with both Buffalo and Philly, and I've said this on your show, I might have said a week ago at Buffalo, they have such a reliance on we're going to give Josh Allen 10, 12 carries a game on purpose.
Stupid.
That to me is nuts. Like at some point, that's coming to roost. How many guys do you see at 30, 32 years old playing like that?
Nobody.
None. Ever in the history of the sport. Like
he may not make it to that age if he starts getting concussed, because he's already had one or two doing that, and I would be very careful with that. I think they're playing with fire. The problem is that he's also the one that wants to do it. You know what I mean? When you see him dive the week before, and he's like, you're like, what the hell are you doing, bro? You're a quarterback. But he's so young, big, and strong that right now, you know how it is. He just feels invincible right now, and you'll get humbled. You'll get humbled in this league.
I always just think too, you're gonna face some team that just says, you know what? First time he does that, I don't care. Hit him as hard as you can, hit him low, hit him high, whatever. Drill him. And let's be real. This is a National Football League. Most guys are never out there to hurt somebody else. That's not the way it is. Guys don't want to hurt other guys, nor should they, of course. In a playoff game, not that they try to injure him. If you're a linebacker and you're trying to get to a Super Bowl and he comes running out and he doesn't want to slide, if you're a linebacker, you're going to hit him with everything you've got. You're going to try to hit him. You're going to try to hit him the next month.
It's not injured, it's punished.
Correct.
The way they look.
You are trying not to put him out of the game, but to make him think like, oh, I don't want to run again. I don't want to feel that again. Like you're trying to make him feel that hit for 10 minutes, right? And if you're in the playoffs, you're also going to have some guys who go, you know what, man, it's worth the 15 yards. He's a half step out of bounds. I'm going to hit him as hard as I can. And, I mean, look, to think that there aren't guys who think that way, of course there are. I mean, you're putting your best player at risk. Like Buffalo, how many times you have to run him on 3rd and 2? Like Devin Singletary can't pick up 6 feet. And Philadelphia, they do a lot of that with Hurts. They run him a lot, man. And at some point, like Hurts is not as big as Allen. Like at some point, that's coming to roost. Like, I don't care how big, how tough, how strong you are. It's a dangerous game at some point.
You got to learn to beat people from the pocket. And that's where I give Jalen Hurts a little credit over Fields and Lamar.
Yeah.
That he's starting to do that a lot more. And that's what's going to extend his career, because eventually all of these guys will break down and get, unfortunately, they're going to suffer serious injuries if you choose to be the running quarterback.
Right. Absolutely. I think that's, look, having the ability to run as a quarterback is great, but it's not something, in my opinion, the team should just rely on over and over and over. I mean, at some point, again, you go back and look at the history of the NFL. How many guys that ran as much as the guys we're talking about right now, how many of those guys played good football into their 30s? I mean, it just doesn't happen. I mean, to probably the best running quarterback ever in terms of just pure running ability, probably Mike Vick. Mike Vick didn't last long in that. And of course, obviously, there were other extenuating circumstances with Michael Vick, but even a guy like Randall Cunningham took a beating, and he had a great year in '98 with the Vikings, but really his career outside of that year was pretty much done in the mid-'90s. It's hard to do that for a long period of time.
I'm with you. All right. So before I let you go, I got to ask you this. At least for my side, how wrong were you about the Lions? How wrong were you about Dan Campbell? Because for me, I think it's a freaking miracle that they're 7-7 at this point in time, and I got to give Dan the man a lot of credit, because I never expected that. And how wrong were you? Because I know I am. That Jared Goff has 23 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, and he is completing 65% of his passes and has played like a franchise quarterback for them overall this year. How wrong have you been about the Lions? Because I know I have been wrong big time.
All right, so let's go levels of wrong from worst to least. I was really wrong about Jared Goff. I expected Jared Goff this year to be absolutely terrible and potentially benched like halfway through the year. That has not happened. I think in my quarterback rankings I put out today, I think he's like 8th. He's played great. Played really, really well. And like a lot of it with Goff over the last handful of years, it's like his yards per attempt is brutal. He's actually good. He's like 7.5 right now. So
7.5, yes.
He's played very, very well. That is the thing by far I couldn't be more wrong on. I thought the Lions this year would be frisky. I didn't think they'd make the playoffs. I thought like they might win like 6 to 7 games and be interesting, but not like, hey, they're actually going to threaten to make the playoffs. They absolutely did at this point, frankly, probably should make the playoffs. Panthers, Bears, Packers last 3 games of the year. If you can run that table, that's not crazy.
Oh, they're one of the teams playing better football than most actually in the last
5, absolutely 6 they are.
Yeah,
they've won 6 of their last 7, and they probably should have beat Buffalo. So you have that going. The thing I actually wasn't wrong, shockingly. I thought Campbell would be a good coach. Now, I will say this with this caveat. I remember writing in Stack the Box when he got hired. I'm like, I actually think this guy's going to work out, and people killed me for it. That said, caveat being when they were 1-6 this year,
I would have killed you for it too, by the way.
Hey, that's fair. A lot of you and everybody else get in line. But when they were 1-6 this year, I'll be the first one to throw my hand up and say, yeah, I was like, he might get fired at the end of the season. So, my confidence in Wayne significantly in Mr. Campbell, but they have been fun. They've been good. I'll tell you right now, man, they get in the playoffs. They play the Vikings in a playoff game. I'm picking the Lions.
You don't want to play them. They have there's no fear because they're playing with house money, bro. They're house money all the way.
That's it. That's always the team. Like, if the Niners played them, I think the Niners would probably just shut them down because they're so good defensively. But, like, if they play the Vikings, I am picking them to beat the Vikings.
Yeah, Vikings are frauds. Yeah. I'm with you.
Huge. Absolutely. Yeah. Like the Lions, the one thing about the Lions, they can score points. And if you can score points, you always have a shot. You've always got a shot of, hey, man, we're just on one that day, 38 points, whatever. They've been incredibly impressive down the stretch.
And they play hungry, man, just like their coach. They play with emotion the entire time. And the Hutchinson pick has been a hell of a pick for them overall. I mean, it's a lot of their draft picks, actually, the last couple of years have really panned out. That's the other reason why things are looking pretty good for the Lions. One, obviously, they hit on the quarterback that he's actually played well, which is shocking to me. But a lot of their draft picks, man, they've done a pretty good job in the front office finding some guys.
And they have the Rams pick. They have the Rams pick. Oh my God. This is going to be, by the way, I know we're going long here. We can wrap it. Man, like the draft this year is going to be nuts. The Eagles have the Saints pick. The Seahawks have Denver's pick. The Rams pick belongs to Detroit. And Houston owns Cleveland's pick. Like, you're going to have 4 picks that are probably in the top 12 to 15 selections that are not owned by the team that has earned them. Like, it's going to be nuts. The Eagles might win the Super Bowl and have a top 10 pick. Like, the Lions might win a playoff game and have like the 3rd overall pick in the draft. It's crazy. I mean, it's nuts to think how many of these teams, like, normally you have that bad of a year and like your reward for that is, all right, well, it's just terrible, but we have a top 5 pick. A lot of these teams, you had that bad of a year. You don't even have that. Like you went through all this and you have nothing to show for it. And in the cases of the Browns and the Broncos and the Rams, you're in cap hell. Like on top of that. And so are the Saints, actually. So it's crazy. You're that bad. You're capped out. You have no picks. But other than that, things are good. The future's bright.
Well, hey, listen. Okay, so Detroit could have a winning record. They might make the playoffs.
Yep.
Dan Campbell could be, I don't know, up for coach of the year. The front office is actually making really good moves.
Good front office.
I'm convinced the world is coming to an end. That's it.
Well,
it's Armageddon.
It might be. If it is, I'd like to at least get through Christmas because I like to give some gifts and get a few. So I'd like to do that and maybe see how the season plays out. But after that, listen, February is always brutal anyway. It's going to be 10 degrees up here and snowing. So if that's when the Lions vortex takes us all, well, it's been a good run.
Follow him on Twitter at Matt Verderame and tell him about Stacking the Box, sir.
Absolutely. Every Tuesday, you can check out Stacking the Box on YouTube at noon Eastern, 11 Central. You can also just download it wherever you get your podcast, subscribe there, leave a rating. If you leave a rating, they'll leave a question with it. I'll answer the question on the pod. So go ahead and do that, and then check out the column. Monday, every single Monday, 6 a.m. at fansided.com. I also tweet it out. It's all there. Power rankings, quarterback rankings, picks throughout the week. So keep it busy. Hey, to those of you who I see in the chat, thanks so much. Really appreciate it.
And we appreciate you, sir. Enjoy the football this weekend. Enjoy your Christmas. We thank you. We will catch up next Wednesday.
Have a happy holiday, everybody. Take care.
You got it. There you go. The great Matt Verderame. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. And folks, we got a hell of a sale going on right now, 30% off. Go to redrecover.com. You're dealing with some pain. You're dealing with an old injury. You're dealing with an old surgery. You're dealing with how about just wear and tear? You're driving that bus all day, back, shoulders, arms hurting. You can get some treatment. You're going to go play pickleball. You want to maybe treat yourself before and after. You're going jogging. You're going in the gym. Man, how about this? You got a scar from a surgery? You want that scar to disappear? Red light therapy can help you ease that pain, can relieve that pain, can get the blood flow going, folks. Red light therapy is all natural. There are no side effects. Kids can use it. Dogs can use it. Of course, us adults, we desperately need it. So if you're dealing with an ankle injury, or if you just want to feel better before and after your workouts, you can optimize your workouts with the wraps. And by the way, these wraps, they're not tied to any cable. It's a battery that's rechargeable. So you can be working in the house, walking around, hanging out, watching television, at home, at the office. You can wear your shoulder wrap, your elbow wrap, your ankle wrap, whatever. My wife as a school teacher, stands all day. She comes home. She uses the wraps for the bottom of her feet, help her recover, help her feel better, get that blood flow going, folks. Red light therapy. The benefits are endless, folks. Go check it out for yourself. Go to redrecover.com and take advantage, because I've been giving you my code Big O for 10% off. Right now, it's 30% through the end of the year. So if you've got maybe a grandmother or grandfather or your wife, your husband, somebody that is dealing with some kind of pain and discomfort, those 15 minutes a day could make an absolute difference. If you got a workout warrior that's part of it, or you are, these wraps are great. If you've got this shoulder injury or surgery from years ago, but when you work out, there's some soreness, you can actually use a wrap before and after your workout, and you're going to feel the difference, man. Check it out. Go to redrecover.com and take advantage right now. 30% off. We step out of the huddle.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.